Welcome, Power fans. We are back to cover episode 7 of season 3, Raising Kanan. If you're new here, just before we begin, make sure to like and subscribe. We're covering every single Power episode this season. So let's get right into it. The name of the episode is Where All Are Guilty. And I have to be honest, this episode really felt like a placeholder. I feel like we're in filler mode as we get towards the end of the season. Hopefully this is the last kind of filler episode, but we may get another one. We know Power turns up, episode 9 and episode 10. But right now, I kind of feel like we're treading water. And this was one of the weaker episodes I feel this season, maybe even the weakest. And it kind of centers on what I mentioned last episode. A big problem I see developing is the Ronnie character as a whole. Um, and it's really just the way he was introduced and how he's going about his business now is really just not meshing with the rest of the overall vibe of the show. He's such an unrealistic character, just the way he carries himself, not changing his clothes, kind of shuffling around. When we first saw him, he's like this deadly serial killer, the way he killed Dean, the one guy that insulted him, he smashed his head in the car door. And now we don't know if he's a lackey or if he's still a boss. He had two goons with him when they went and shook down Paul at the beginning of the episode. But later on, he's getting barked on by Kanan and seeming like he's taking orders from Kanan, which completely goes against what we saw from the character early on, where he was just so against the idea of being under anyone or anyone giving him any type of direction. He was willing to go against and kill his own brother, but now he has no problems with taking direction from Kanan. So the character is not consistent. And with this being one of the more realistic Power shows, it's just kind of throwing everything off. And then kind of the icing on the cake was the pseudo romance that he has going on with Juliana now. Now, it did give us the funniest line of the episode where Unique's ex comes in and she says, "Why is the bodega lady here in the house?" That was funny because it's kind of a good reminder of really where Juliana's standing is. No one respects her. She's in over her head. And as I've been saying, and I'll keep saying it, she's not making it through the end of the season. There's just too much treachery going on. Once her family finds out what she's been doing on the side, she's out of here, either from them or potentially from Ronnie, who's, can't really predict anything he's going to do. But just him as the main antagonist is not really working. So I'm ready for him to get out the picture. I'm hoping he's not going to go into next season, but it's hard to kind of tell at this point. I'm in the camp of believing that Unique is truly dead. If he does come back, that's just going to make the show seem even more ridiculous. But I'm assuming that he is gone and that the big confrontation is going to be once Rock continues to expand her new drug business into the other Golden Pavilion restaurants. Ronnie's going to get worded that some type of way. He's going to feel some type of way about it too, because obviously he has an axe to grind with Rock and is going to start trying to mess up her business. And then I think that's where Kanan is going to have to make that decision between choosing between your family and your new status in the game. And obviously, he's going to choose his family. But there was one wrinkle with that. Obviously, Famous has been kicked out of the house now, but he does have his own gun. What is he going to be using that gun for? It seems like he's out the game now, staying with his mom's house and everything. But it wouldn't surprise me if that's the gun that takes Ronnie out because Ronnie seems to not be able to let it go. He likes harassing people. You saw what he said to Unique's child's mother. I think her name's Pernessa, about, I got my eye on you and we got to stay close. Whoever did that to Unique is still out there. Just the implied threat that he was doing with her. There's only two people he did that with. He did it with her and he did it with Famous. So he obviously has an axe to grind with Famous, maybe because his mom loves him, as ridiculous as that sounds. So I can see that eventually happening where he presses Famous too much and then Famous out of fear puts a bullet in him. So that's one angle. The other potential angle for taking Ronnie out would be Jukebox. Jukebox obviously has no fear of Ronnie, can see right through him and his treachery, doesn't like the influence that he's having on Kanan, and also, if he puts his hands on her, she's going to have no hesitation with taking him out, even though she doesn't have a gun. Maybe it's a big confrontation where it's a fight with her, Famous, and Ronnie, and she's the one that gets a hold of the gun. But Ronnie's another one which I don't see making it through the end of the season. I honestly think the characters that we have with Snaps and Pops, the older OGs that used to rob the banks, I'd rather see them in the picture as the main antagonist against Rock than Ronnie. They seem a lot more interesting and a lot smarter, actually. Someone that can match wits with Rock. So once Ronnie's out the picture, I would love to kind of see them come to the forefront and have that battle of the minds going on. I think the other reason why this felt as a placeholder episode is the whole arc that they're trying to do with Lou and his descent into, just guilt and addiction, with the alcohol issues that he has. It just happened too quickly. The previous episode at the end, he makes a drunken confession. Next episode, by the end, it's resolved with him putting a bullet in Scrap's mother and ending that whole drama right then and there. It didn't have enough time to really build. The only good thing that kind of came out of that is I'm getting more of an inkling that Howard is already being is already under surveillance. I really believe now that the internal investigation, the guy that the agent that's coming around, is really just gathering information on Howard without anyone knowing. I think they already have an idea that he's corrupt, and they're just slowly getting as much information as they can. I'm really starting to believe that now because it's kind of the only thing that makes sense. And I don't know how they're going to tie it in with his ex-partner that he killed, but they have some ace up their sleeve that we're not aware of. Going back to even that first episode this season, we don't know if there was anybody around there when that shooting happened. So they know something, I believe, and I think they already are going to put the hammer down on Howard probably by the finale. I think he's going to be doing this dirt. They're going to let him get as comfortable as he possibly can before they bring the hammer down. As far as other storylines that really aren't that intriguing right now, I would say Marvin and the Village Voice reporter slash junkie. That whole issue, it just seems like filler. It's not really going anywhere. It's kind of just keeping Marvin occupied, and it's not really doing anything. This is one storyline I could do without. The actors are doing a good job of what they're given, but it's just distracting. It's distracting from the main storylines that we want to see. The one bright spot, or one of the biggest bright spots of this episode, would be finally seeing Kanan kind of turn into an asshole. He's already had it in him for a while, but it's getting like full blown at this point. The way he kicked Famous out the house, that's one. The biggest one was probably telling Crystal she can go home on the train by herself because she didn't want to fool around in the movie theater. And then in another scumbag move, he goes to Alicia's house and sleeps with her. So he's really messing with Jukebox's whole business and showing a complete lack of respect for her, which we normally don't see from him. So that's very bad to see. And I understand where Jukebox is coming from, going to Rock to trying to rein him in because he's completely out of control now. And because everything is going good, he doesn't realize what type of danger he's in messing around with somebody like Ronnie. So we're going to see where that goes. But with Crystal throwing up in the bathroom, the first thought I had is, oh, she's pregnant. But if she is pregnant, that's somebody that we haven't met yet. Because at first I thought, well, did Kanan knock her up? But obviously, from what they were doing in the movie theater, where she just wasn't comfortable with him just pulling her shirt up, they don't have any type of relationship or haven't gone that far with it. So if she is pregnant, it's somebody that we haven't been introduced to yet. But on the other hand, we do know that she has the pill problem, so maybe that's what's causing the nausea, and maybe soon we're going to see an overdose happen, which gets her kicked out of the group. Now, the other thing with Leisha, maybe she ends up getting pregnant because obviously her and Kanan are messing around. But we already know Jukebox is going to put hands on Leisha at some point. She's getting too mouthy, getting too comfortable, and already the manager is kind of pushing for Jukebox to be the leader of this group and to keep the girls in line. And there's no better way to get somebody in line than putting your hands on them. So we'll see what happens there. But I definitely think we're going to get that probably next episode, where episode 8 is coming up, episode 8 or 9. Alicia is going to get uh, roughed up by Jukebox. We already see that coming, especially if she comes for Crystal like she's continually been doing as far as bullying her. I see that eventually happening. Um, as far as anything else this episode, nothing really stood out to me. Like I said, it feels like a placeholder. Rock is making progress with as far as expanding her business. I think one thing to keep an eye on would be the other brother who doesn't seem keen on doing business with her. Um, I don't know if it's a racial thing or a xenophobic thing, probably a combination of both. So he's going to be a problem. I don't know which brother holds more sway, but she's gonna have to convince him. He was looking at her like, "What are you doing in my establishment? This business isn't for you." So does he even know that his other brother has been using some of the stores to move weight? Maybe he doesn't. So we're gonna see where that goes. But money talks. So I don't see him being a big enough problem where they have to kill him. But we are gonna get a few scenes with Rock having to convince him that this is in his best interest. And then what about the police? The police that were harassing her at the other location. I guess that's done now because she's going to be moving full time back in the game. She doesn't have to worry about that anymore, but that's kind of been dropped. So she has about 2 months. 2 months is what the other contact Connect told her to get her business off the ground. And that's just enough time for Ronnie to get in it and start causing a mess, which I think is going to be our ending storyline for the last, I won't say in the next episode. I think it's going to really hit the fan, episode 9 and episode 10. But we are late in the season. Not the best episode, in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Which characters are holding you the most? Are you in agreement with me that Kanan is kind of starting to come to the forefront now? Are you happy with the Ronnie character? Or are you more in my kind of viewpoint thinking we need a better kind of antagonist, maybe a Snaps or a Pops, or maybe finally bringing in Breeze? Because please don't let Breeze be Ronnie. That would be a big disappointment. Maybe it is time for someone like Breeze to come in to really kind of up the ante and be that good antagonist. And then finally, how many of you out there are still holding out hope that Unique is alive? And if he is alive, does that hurt the show, or does that bring the show right back to the power that we know and love? All right, so that's my recap for episode 7. We'll see you guys next week to cover episode 8. It's only 3 more episodes left this season, so things have to get moving to get to the explosive finale as we're used to with Power seasons. All right, so I'll see you guys next week and enjoy your weekend.